Cold kills faster than hunger, thirst, or even fear, and the soldiers of World War II learned that lesson the hard way. Entire campaigns stalled, weapons failed, and men froze standing upright because they underestimated winter. What makes this topic deadly serious is that those men were trained, supplied, and organized, yet the cold still nearly defeated them. That is exactly why these winter tricks matter today. These are not comfort tips. These are survival principles proven when failure meant death. If you consider yourself a survivalist, pay attention, because winter does not forgive mistakes. And these lessons were paid for in blood. Why World War II? Winter survival knowledge still matters today. WWII. Winter survival wasn't theoretical. It was learned on the Eastern Front, in the Ardennes, and across frozen forests where temperatures regularly dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. Soldiers discovered quickly that modern gear meant nothing if it wasn't used correctly. One of the biggest lessons was understanding heat management instead of chasing warmth. Overheating caused sweat, sweat froze, and frozen moisture pulled heat from the body up to 25 times faster than dry air. The rule soldiers followed was simple: stay slightly cold, while moving and warm only when stopped. Applied today, this means adjusting layers constantly. If you're hiking or working, open vents or remove one layer the moment you feel warm. When you stop, add insulation immediately. That timing difference of just 5 minutes often decided whether someone developed frostbite or stayed operational. How layering systems were improvised when issued gear failed. Issued winter uniforms often failed, so soldiers learned to layer using what they had. The effective ratio discovered through trial was 3 layers minimum: 1 moisture-wicking base, 1 insulating middle, and 1 wind-blocking outer layer. When proper fabrics were unavailable, they used wool blankets cut into wraps, newspaper stuffed between shirts for insulation, and even burlap sacks as wind barriers. The principle still applies. Insulation works by trapping air, not by thickness alone. If you stack 2 thin layers instead of 1 thick layer, you trap more air pockets and retain heat better. A practical example today would be wearing a thin thermal shirt, a fleece, and a shell jacket, rather than relying on a single heavy coat. This setup also allows faster adjustment when activity levels change. How soldiers kept their feet alive in extreme cold. Foot injuries were one of the most disabling winter problems of the war. Trench foot and frostbite sidelined entire units. Soldiers learned that tight boots killed circulation, and circulation is heat. The solution was counterintuitive. Boots slightly oversized, socks changed frequently, and feet aired whenever possible. A common ratio used was 2 pairs of socks at most, never 3, because compression reduced blood flow. They also rotated socks, drying 1 pair against the body while wearing another. Today, the same logic applies. Wear 1 moisture-wicking sock and 1 insulating sock, never cotton, and loosen laces during rest periods. If your feet feel numb, move immediately. Numbness is the warning before tissue damage begins. So, here's how heat was preserved during rest and sleep in frozen terrain. Sleeping in winter, believe it or not, actually killed more soldiers than combat in some conditions. The ground, well, it pulled heat relentlessly, So insulation beneath the body mattered more than insulation above it. Soldiers discovered that 1 inch of compressed insulation underneath was worth 2 inches on top. They'd use pine branches, straw, backpacks, or even rifles laid side by side under their bedding, just to break ground contact. The practical lesson here is clear. Never ever sleep directly on snow or frozen earth. Even today, you know, a simple foam pad combined with natural insulation underneath can double your heat retention. Soldiers also made sure to sleep with hats on, since up to 30% of body heat escapes through the head when it's left uncovered. This isn't just a myth. It was measured repeatedly in field conditions. Fire discipline and heat control, well, they truly prevented detection and death. Fire was life, but it was also a real danger. Open flames could reveal positions and consume fuel rapidly. WWII units got quite good at mastering small, controlled fires, using reflectors made of rocks or metal to direct heat without a visible flame. They learned to cook once, eat hot food quickly, and then extinguish fires completely before dark. You know, a small fire producing steady embers was actually more efficient than a roaring blaze. These days, the modern application is what we call fuel discipline. It's best to use fires to recharge heat, not just to chase comfort. Honestly, 10 minutes of controlled heat beats an hour of wasted fuel and exposure every time. Heat should be intentional, not emotional. So, let's talk about how food and water management changed in freezing conditions. The cold increases calorie burn dramatically, no doubt about it. Soldiers in winter needed up to 50% more calories just to maintain their body heat. Fat became absolutely critical because it provides long-lasting energy. They prioritized fats whenever they were available, and importantly, learned to melt snow properly instead of eating it raw, since that could drop core temperature dangerously. The correct method was always melting snow first, then bringing it to a near boil before drinking. The survival takeaway is simple. In winter, calories equal warmth. If you normally need 2,000 calories, expect closer to 3,000 in sustained cold. Ignoring this equation leads to weakness, poor decision-making, and hypothermia. How mental discipline kept men alive when conditions were unbearable. The cold attacks the mind as much as the body. WWII veterans often said the biggest threat was giving up mentally. Units enforced routines, even pointless ones, to keep morale and structure intact. Simple actions like cleaning gear, rotating watch duties, and maintaining personal discipline prevented mental collapse. Today, this lesson is overlooked. Structure keeps you alive. When cold sets in, follow routines. Eat on schedule. Move with purpose. Check gear methodically. Chaos accelerates failure in winter. These World War II winter tricks are not history lessons. They are survival blueprints. Cold weather doesn't care about experience, strength, or confidence. It respects preparation, discipline, and knowledge earned the hard way. If this guide sharpened your mindset and added real tools to your survival skill set, subscribe to The Final Siren. Share this with someone who needs to learn before winter teaches them the hard way. And stay ready when the temperature drops and excuses freeze solid.